Hey guys, it's been a while. It's more of a personal video. Recently, I've been receiving more and more messages of people reaching out to me saying, hey, you were a huge inspiration back on YouTube when you were making videos, fitness inspiration, religious, spiritual inspiration, etc. I had this thought and just wanted to share it with you. It was, I know it's not rocket science, but it was something that personally helped me move on from a few things. And I hope will help some of you. My biggest regret in life, some of you may or may not know, I did get divorced almost 2 years ago now. Well, we separated almost 2 years ago. Divorce was last October of last year. So a year officially, but almost, a year and a half, almost 2 years separated. My biggest regret that's been eating me up ever since the separation, and honestly even while I was married, was the marriage itself. I did get married early. I was 21 years old, and when I spoke about it to people, therapists or just friends, everyone always said, like, it's not you can't regret decisions you made at 21 years old. I mean, you can, but it's not your fault. You didn't know any better, and they constantly try to take the responsibility off me. And I found that not helpful at all. It made me frustrated, and I would say even angry, that they would tell me, it's not your fault, because I thought it was my fault, and I still think that it was my decision and my fault that I made that choice. And when people try to convince me that it wasn't my fault, that I did something in the past, that was still me. And whatever my past person did is still on me. I don't want to make myself a victim of circumstance. Never liked the idea of being a victim of anybody, because I feel like no matter how, manipulated you may be in any situation by your circumstances or people or whatever, there's always something you can do. And if you don't do that something, then it's on you, right? That's how I view it. But here's something that helps me is now that I do take responsibility for my actions, and the marriage I had and everything, and the decision to get married, and I don't need to fight with anybody about whether it's my responsibility or not. One thing that helps a lot is imagining yourself in the room with who you were back when that decision was made. Hopefully, if you regret that decision, that means some character development has happened. You've come to new realizations, new knowledge, influenced by your experience, informed now. And looking back with this new information, with this new knowledge, you can then look back and say, I didn't know any better. And yes, I'm sitting in the same room with my 21-year-old self right now, speaking figuratively, and I can talk to that person, have some compassion with them, like, you didn't know, and I forgive you. I forgive you for the decision you made, because you couldn't have acted better in that situation, because you didn't know any better. And I forgive you for that. And I know it may sound a little bit cheesy, or a little bit, not manly in terms of, pull yourself up by your bootstraps, toughen up, suck it up and move on with life. But when you see yourself talking to that person who made that decision back then, informed by the circumstances and beliefs that he had at the time, and you actually forgive them for making the decisions they made, you no longer have to regret them. And so you can move on from regret that may be eating you up of I should have done this and I should have done that, because forgiveness has taken the place of regret. And you understand, like, okay, it was your responsibility. You could have, maybe done something different. You didn't know, and I forgive you. Because oftentimes I do find myself being a lot more compassionate and empathetic to other people than I am to myself. And the reason why is because I often feel like I am defending the fact that I'm not a victim. you know. And I think this is more common to men probably than women, but I don't, you know, I've never been a woman, so I have no idea. But I feel like it is more common for men to defend, like they don't want to be victims. They want to feel in control. They want to feel like everything in their life is, you know, in their hand. They're conquerors of this, you know, life and everything that life throws at them. So for us, it's sometimes a little bit more difficult to kind of let go of things. But at the end of the day, I'm talking about my experience. I can't speak for everybody. So instead of, in your mind, fighting for others, you know, fighting against others telling you it wasn't your fault, you can put that aside, say, you know, it was my fault and I accept that. But I forgive, sitting in the same room talking to that person that made that decision back then, I forgive them. Because if they were anybody else, not me, if they were another 21-year-old that I've never met before and they told me their whole situation completely, what happened, I would have been like, dude, like, move on. Like, seriously, don't dwell on this too much. It's past, it's in the past, move on. But when it comes to me, I'm not able to let go because I'm me, and I have to prove to myself that, you know, almost punish myself for making a decision that impacted my life. But if it was somebody else, I would have just said, dude, just move on. So in the end, you know, if you've got the same proclivities as I do, in the sense of trying to take maximum responsibility for everything you do in your life and bearing full responsibility for it to the extent that it eats you up over regrets that you've made that you feel like you could have done better, sit down with yourself, figuratively speaking, in a room. Imagine yourself, you know, from a third person perspective. Look at that person. Imagine who they are. And as if you're speaking to that person, and say to them what you would say to your best friend who shared the same story of what they did at 21. You wouldn't be harsh at them because you see how much they're punishing themselves every day for thinking about it. You could just be like, hey, I don't think it's that bad. I think you've moved on. I think you learned a lot from it. And tell your 21-year-old self the same. Say, hey, you did what you thought was best at the moment, and move on. And again, I'm not looking for pity or more questions about, you know, this specific situation. The divorce was just an example of something that I do in everyday life when I take responsibility for an action I've made that hurt me in the long run. And I'm using this as, you know, a beacon that can be applied, or like as an example that can be applied to a plethora of situations in life. So hopefully this helps somebody, and y'all have a good day, and I hope you can move on from any regrets that may be eating you up. Later.